Okay, I'm hoping that is fixed. I believe I find a problem here. I apologize for that. We're going to restart here now. Welcome to the NERCA educational webinar series on distracted driving. Today we're going to focus on one particular type of distracted driving, being cell phone usage. Different types of cell phone usage, not just talking about using the cell phone to make calls. We'll be talking about texting while driving. My name is Peter Shackford. I'm with a company called Hetrick Sear & Associates. I'm glad to be here today walking you through this educational webinar series. If you have any questions for me in the chat box or the question box you see down below, please feel free to shoot me a question or shoot me a chat. I'll try to answer those as we go along here today. So what we're going to be going over, a little table of contents here for you. We're going to talk about what distracted driving is. Really, how did we get here? The progression, I guess. Different types of driving distractions. Cell phones themselves, one of the main issues involving cell phones is how they go about distracting us, and as you see a little later, how the brain handles distractions. So that's something that's going to be kind of unique for you, I think, today here when you see some of that. We'll look at some statistics related to cell phone accidents. And finally, as employers and employees, what can we do to curb distracted driving and cell phone usage within our organizations and within our personal driving habits? A quick disclaimer. I have to start out with a disclaimer. Throughout this webinar, there's going to be a number of short videos that pop up. These videos are a little bit graphic in nature. Okay, Hetrick Sear, we're very selective in the videos that we use. I don't have videos in here. I never use videos that are extremely gory and really out of sort, but wherever everyone places that line of acceptability is going to be different. Okay, so some of these videos you may find a little bit difficult to watch. Every video we show is a reenactment of some sort. Okay, there's no real injuries or accidents taking place, but this is important because in our eyes, many people drive distractedly and allow these distractions into lives because they believe that this won't happen to them. We'll talk about throughout this presentation, but some people, one of the beliefs is that these types of shock and awe type videos is a way to make people realize what the results could be and how tragic they can be to many different families and lives involved. So that's the reason for some of those videos, to drive some points home. And we apologize in advance if anyone finds these videos over the top or offensive. That wasn't the point, and I don't believe that'll be the case. In fact, one particular video, which I'm saving for the end of this presentation, we'll show it way at the tail end after we complete our Q&A, pretty much after the recording is completed, and largely because it's the most graphic, I guess you can say. It was a public service announcement created overseas. Very difficult video to watch, but very powerful. And I figured I put that at the end to give everyone an opportunity to leave early after the Q&A if they feel that they don't like watching those type of videos. They don't want to insert it into the middle of the presentation. But if you would like to see it, if you stick around, if you're okay watching some videos that are a little bit more graphic, again, nothing extremely gory or anything like that, but it may be helpful in changing your opinion of distracted driving. It depicts some teenage drivers and what happens with texting while driving. If you have teenage drivers teenagers who are close to their driving age, it may be something that you wish for them to see. We can discuss how you can view that later yourselves, how you could obtain it. You could obtain it through YouTube, and I'll show you where to get that. But I want to let everybody know ahead of time. Matter of fact, the video we're just about to see is another one of those more graphic videos, but just to set the stage, again, this is a reenactment, and really just to show us some of the tragic results of being distracted while driving, using cell phones while we're driving. Okay, as we see there, there are many very tragic things and results being distracted. Here you see the driver who was weaving over the line, crossing the line. Actually, you couldn't see real well. They were on a cell phone when they went through a traffic light and struck a motorcycle operator. Again, that is a reenactment. All right, nobody was seriously injured there. Nobody was injured at all. But those are the type of accidents that happen because we're distracted while on the road. We can't see all the things going on around us. We lose sight of many of the things we're supposed to be doing. What is distracted driving? Well, distraction.gov defines distracted driving as any non-driving activity that a person engages in that has the potential to distract him or her from the primary task of driving and increase the risk of crashing. All right, so driving is a skill that requires our full attention to safely control our vehicle and respond to any events around us. And distraction is anything that's going to take our attention away from that primary task of driving a vehicle. We see different types of distractions there. We'll talk about many different types of distractions as we go through here. Eating and drinking while operating a vehicle, using a cell phone, which is our primary focus here today, talking to other passengers is a distraction. Grooming, reading maps, using PDAs and navigational systems, very common nowadays. Watching videos, pets in the vehicle, changing radio stations. All these things are distractions, and some of them are more distracting than others. Really, we take distractions and we group them in 3 different categories, and we'll talk about what those are. But all of them can be dangerous and life-threatening. And texting is one of the most dangerous distractions because it involves all 3 types and groups of distractions, which we'll get into. How do we get here? This is just real comical, kind of from then and now. Look here at the beginning, all right? Some of our first modes of transportation. Well, 1 horsepower, okay, stopping from time to time to resting his horse. Very few distractions. Pony Express rider here. We progress through time. We get to the horse and carriage, travel about 10 miles an hour. Very few distractions here again. Very few automobiles on the road. But more responsibilities, more things to handle. We got passengers now. As we progress, we get more different types of cars, more advanced, a little more faster. Still very few distractions, but we continue progress. Okay, we get more and more speed. The more speed that we have, obviously, if we are distracted, the more chance of serious injury and accident. Certainly more traffic on the roadways throughout the years, and the complexity of distractions has increased. Okay, not just inside the cab. We know about our eating and our drinking and using the cell phones and grooming, but look at these exterior distractions, just signage as well. Signage are everywhere right now, and just the signs and some external distractions around us there could lead, again, to an accident and injury. All of these lead to fatal consequences. Okay, here we see a van make contact with a bus. Highway speeds being increased, volume of traffic on the roads, multiple types of distractions around us. They all make driving more and more dangerous, and it's not getting any better. All right, not getting any better at all. We look at the 3 types. I mentioned types of distraction. Really put it into groups, 3 different groups. We have our visual distraction. That's anything that takes our eyes off the road. We have our manual distraction. That's anything that takes your hands off the steering wheel. And then we have our cognitive distractions. That's anything that takes your mind off the road. Put these into context a little bit. We look at using our cell phone, okay, handheld cell phone or texting. Certainly it is a visual distraction, takes your eyes off the road. It's a manual distraction, takes your hands off the wheel, and is also a cognitive distraction. It takes your mind off driving. It makes use of cell phones all the more dangerous as it involves all 3 types of distractions, distractive behaviors. Here we see it again. Cell phones take our eyes off our road, takes our hands off the wheel, takes our mind off driving. Drivers don't understand or realize that talking on a cell phone, it distracts the brain. We realize our hands on the wheel. Many feel that they can drive their vehicles with one hand, top the wheel. So they don't think that's a major issue or concern for them. As far as their eyes being off the road, they think, it's only for a second I'm glancing off the road. Or maybe they're operating with even hands-free, which we'll talk about. They can keep their eyes on the road and still kind of communicate. But they don't realize the cognitive part of it, the cognitive distraction, the mind, taking your mind off your driving, having these deep conversations. using the cell phone distracts the brain, takes that focus away from that primary task of driving. And it's that cognitive aspect of it that we're going to talk a lot about here today.
31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 44. Well, this is one shoe. No dog today.
Grace, let's do this, baby girl. Say goodbye to the gang.
Elizabeth wants to come too.
Okay, Elizabeth can come, but that's all. Come on.
Sorry, guys.
Pump 7? Sure. That'll be $36. Rewards card? No. Hey, you know what? Give me one of those lottery tickets, too. The big one.
Hi, what's up?
Hey, so I think I'm going to skip out early and try and catch a few innings of Danny's game.
Oh, I'm sure you'd love that. Hey, what do you want to eat tonight?
Would you eat at Mazzoni's?
Ugh, don't make me.
All right, that's okay. I'm good with whatever.
Mommy, Elizabeth wants some ice cream.
Well, she's a good girl. Maybe we can get some on the way home. Oh, Erin called. She left a message with the other broker.
Okay, so now what?
Now we wait.
Oh, well, don't worry, because we are about to become filthy rich anyway.
Finally.
Yeah, lottery's over $200 million. I got a ticket, so I think we're good.
Oh, why didn't I think of that?
That's what you have me for.
¿Quieres ver tu programa ahora?
No, comienza hasta las 2.
Ok, si me necesitas, entonces voy a estar afuera.
Stupid.
Hey, do you want me to pick anything up?
You know what? I'll leave Mazzoni's. I don't care.
Hey, all right.
Love you.
Love you.
Mommy, I forgot my crystal bracelet.
It's okay, sweetheart. It'll still be there when we get back. Everyone loves the picture I posted of you.
AT&T reminds you. You can wait.
Okay, so a little AT&T infomercial there. Again, trying to show that this can happen anybody, all walks of life. We had very responsible mom and dad there, actually crashed into each other. A lot of these accidents happen close to home. Communicating with each other on the cell phone. The mom's checking her text messages and crosses that center line. Tragic, right? Devastating, many different lives involved. Yet it happens every single day on our roadways. Some statistics we have here: 26% of crashes in 2014 involved reports of cell phone use. Those are the ones that cell phone use was reported in. 25% of all accidents. There's roughly 1.6 million accidents involving cell phones, cited by the National Safety Council. Of those killed in distracted driving crashes, 995 involve reports of a cell phone as a distraction. National Highway Transportation Administration. This one here is interesting to me. At any given daylight moment across America, approximately 660,000 drivers are using cell phones or manipulating electronic devices while driving. Right now, as I speak, as you listen, on our roads, there are 660,000 people right now, any given moment, using a cell phone or manipulating electronic devices. Think about that. Okay, the dangers involved in cell phone usage and how hazardous it can be, how many lives it can affect. We see it all the time. We see people using these cell phones, maybe ourselves using cell phones on the roads. Chance of a crash while texting is increased by 23%, even if the crash is largely the fault of the other driver. Right? You maybe could have done something to avoid it had you not been distracted. Okay, so accepting that responsibility and looking at the facts that the other driver in this situation may have also been on their cell phone, may have also been distracted, but maybe we could have avoided that had we not been distracted ourselves. Use of a hands-free or use of a cell phone while driving, whether hands-free or handheld, delays our reactions as much as having a blood alcohol concentration at the legal limit of 0.08%. All right, so you're right at that limit of intoxication, and at that limit, you're just as dangerous as somebody who's using a hands-held phone or a hands-free phone, hands-held or hands-free. And I want to make sure I emphasize that because we'll be talking a little bit later in this presentation about some of the misnomers out there, that hands-free is safer than hands-held. We'll discuss that one as well. 80% of all crashes, 65% of near crashes involve some type of distraction, getting on a little bit more than just cell phone usage, but other types of distractions. Brain activity used while driving decreases by 40% when a driver listens to conversation or music. Okay, I talked a little bit earlier about that cognitive distraction, that brain activity. That's going to be a large focus of this presentation. Our brain activity, it's going to decrease by 40% when we're listening to conversations or music and kind of engaged in some of these things, and we're going to have less brain activity going towards what we need to have it going towards, and that's our driving. And more than 80% of drivers admit to blatantly hazardous behaviors, changing of clothes, staring with their feet, painting nails, and shaving, etc. 80% of drivers admit to doing things like that. Pretty scary. So hands-free. I talked about hands-free. Is hands-free the answer? For a lot of years, that's where we're heading. Matter of fact, I think 13 or 14 states right now have laws requiring the use of hands-free technology, and there's been a lot of studies in recent years. Is that better? And the National Safety Council actually went and they compiled about 30 recent studies, took a look at the statistics and what their findings were. And of all these studies that they grouped together, they found very little difference in accident statistics for those who were talking with a hands-free device versus those who were holding a cell phone to talk. We're not talking about texting right now. We're just talking about conversations, talking on the cell phone, holding that cell phone in your hand versus use of a hands-free technology. Very little difference. In fact, drivers using hands-held or hands-free, both are 4 times as likely to crash as those who are not. Very little difference in those statistics. And why is that? All right, and the large reason that they found is because of that cognitive distraction. Whether you're on a hands-free device, whether you're holding a cell phone to your ear, we still have that cognitive distraction. We think that we can multitask. We think we can do both. However, multitasking in this situation is a myth. Our brains do not do things at once with the same level of efficiency. Okay, and these are some of the results of some of those studies that we talked about. This is a graphic that's used, the National Safety Council presents. And you see the pictures here. The brain quickly toggles between different tasks, but it can't do 2 things at the same time. Activity in the area of the brain that processes moving images is going to decrease by 1/3 when listening or talking on a cell phone. Okay, and you see the picture on the left. That's when we're driving alone with no distractions, and then on the right is when we're driving while sentence listening. We're trying to comprehend a conversation and prepare for a response. The ability to process moving images, the activity in our brain, you can see is significantly reduced by about 1/3. You see in the bottom, just listening to sentences on cell phones decreases activity by 37%. And the portion of brain which perceives movement, integrates sensory information, and also has the importance for language processing. So it's trying to do both tasks, and it can do neither task as efficiently as it could if it was trying to do just one task alone. Listening and language comprehension drew cognitive resources away from our driving ability. So can we walk and chew gum at the same time? All right, absolutely we can do that. Okay, we've heard that before. Neither task, walking, chewing gum, is a cognitive demanding task, and that's one of the important things to remember. We're not saying that your brain is not capable of doing these activities. We're trying to say it's not capable of performing more than one cognitive demanding task, such as driving, all right, conversations on our cell phone. Driving involves a more complex set of tasks than walking or chewing gum, obviously. It's visual, it's manual, cognitive, auditory. Cell phone, even those who are using cell phones just walking, pedestrians, we see them acting unsafely. They're far less likely to look for traffic before they step out in the street. They're far less likely to look at traffic while crossing the streets. They're less likely to notice unusual objects placed along the path. They're tripping over sidewalks and changes in elevation while in conversation on their cell phones. We see this. We've probably done this ourselves. We got to realize just having that conversation is extremely distracting to us. Our brain cannot focus on everything going on around us. It forgets where we are, forgets our surroundings because we're engaged in our conversation. And the same thing happens, obviously, behind the wheel, where driving is far much more challenging for us and cognitive demanding than walking. Yet we, for some reason, think that we can utilize our cell phones while we're driving, and we can do so with relative safety. We really got to focus on that aspect of it and realize, if we can't even talk on our cell phone while we're walking, what makes us think that we can talk on our cell phone while we're driving and moving this heavy piece of equipment around at 45, 55, 65 miles an hour on the freeway? A driver's job is to watch for hazards, but this cannot be done while the brain is overloaded with the task of the communications and on our cell phone. Here we see another example, okay, of having to multitask. And just again, how multitasking, the cognitive demand in the brain, takes away from our ability to do both of those tasks. Think of a brain multitasking in computer terms. That might be something for some of you that is a little easier to do. Myself, I'm pretty computer illiterate, but it makes sense. The short-term memory that's used for cognitive skills is similar to RAM in computers. RAM is the processing speed of your computer, which permits it to do multiple tasks at once. You can have more files open. It's going to operate quicker as we open and close different things. But the more that's demand on it, the slower and the less efficient it becomes. When we've got multiple tasks open, multiple folders open, our computers operate slower, okay, because of the processing speed and the RAM requirements. When multitasking, the brain is also juggling these tasks, the focus and the attention leading to inattentive blindness. And that's when doing two cognitively complex tasks, such as driving and use of a cell phone, causes our brain to shift focus. We're looking, but we're not seeing. And we're focusing, we're putting a lot of focus on our conversation, which is then taking away the focus that we need to have on the roadway. And this illustration kind of showcases that. This is from those same studies that the National Safety Council put together. You see the focus area while we're not on our phone. You see this guy on the left with the blue box, the blue long rectangle, focusing far down the road, scanning from side to side all the way across the road. And here you see the focus area that they had while they were talking on the phone and engaged in conversation. Significantly smaller focus area. We're not scanning down the road. We're not scanning from side to side. Our focus is significantly reduced because of the conversations that we're trying to carry on our cell phone. We're not even talking about texting as of just yet. We're just talking about conversation. So So let's look at some tips that can help us drive a little bit safer. Some of these tips are related to cell phone usage. Other of these tips are just related to some safe driving requirements. But we want to ensure that all passengers are buckled up properly. All right, regardless of distractions right now, that's one of the things we want to make sure of at all times. Before driving, turn off your cell phone. Put it on silent. All right, toss it in the trunk or the glove box. We got to really get rid of that distraction. Okay, and it really can become something that we're addicted to. All right, at some point, I'm sure that we'll have some type of disease, some type of addiction related to cell phone usage that's clinically classified. But as of right now, it sure seems that way. So let's get rid of that distraction altogether. While we're traveling, there is no room in our cab for our cell phone and those kind of distractions. We can set our GPS before we start to drive, whether when we're in transit. On long drives, schedule stops to check our voicemail, emails, and text messages. Be more responsible with that. All right, set times to stop on our long drives. There are some apps that you can install on your phone to hold calls and messages while your car is in motion. I'm going to show you some of those apps that are available here in just a bit. There's one in particular that we have had some exposure to and some really positive results with. So I'll show you what that app is here. But these are some real creative tools. And you look at technology kind of got us into this problem. And the hope is that technology will get us out of it. So that's what some of these apps could possibly do for us. Ask a passenger to take incoming calls and messages. Change your voicemail greeting to say that you might be driving. And you'll return your calls when you can safely. Do not tailgate. Okay, distractions, if we're distracted for any reason, things internally, things externally, be it a cell phone or something outside of the cab of our car, we need to make sure we have a safe following distance at all times. Okay, for when those things do come up, if we do happen to get distracted for a second, give us more room to be able to react. So have a safe following distance. And when you're on the road, keep your eyes on the road, keep your hands on the steering wheel. What some employers should consider involving a cell phone usage policy. First, you should have develop a written policy and have all your employees sign off on it. It's recommended that the policy absolutely prohibit cell phone use. In the past, we've talked about use of hands-free technology in some of our cell phone use policies, and because of these recent studies, because of some of the accident statistics that are out there, it's now the recommendation, Hetrick's here, that your policy prohibit the use of cell phones while you're driving. Require employees to pull off the road safely before listening to or reading any messages and before answering or returning any calls. So in addition to having that policy that prohibits the cell phone use, we provide now the expectation that if they're going to use cell phones, they're going to make sure they pull off the road first, make sure they're in a safe location before listening to or reading messages or making any calls. So that's important to have in place. Recommend making your policy widely known. Okay, really communicating your policy and making sure that your employees understand that it's something you're serious about. You can notify customers, vendors through possible channels that your employees must obey this policy, so they understand what the expectations are. Your employees are not going to be available 24/7. Okay, while they're in transit, you want them to make sure that phone is either off or set in a mode that will not respond to them and allow them to respond to them, and that they're going to call you as soon as they get to a safe location. Really promote safe cell phone usage as a company policy. Enforce your policy. This is the hardest part, but it's very important. It's vital. When you know that your foreman, your supervisor, or one of your best people is on the phone talking and calling in violation of your policy, you got to be consistent and enforce it with it, and make sure they understand the importance. And lastly, considering technology and how it could help you. And we'll show you some technology here. There's several apps that are available to help curb cell phone use. Below are a few. There's CellControl, and that's the one I'm going to showcase for you here in just a bit. We have some experience with that one, and I'm in no means promoting this one over any other one. It's just one that we have experience with and I know works. I don't have experience with these other ones per se. Fleet Safer Mobile, AT&T Drive Mode, Sprint Drive First. For Sprint and AT&T, I think you need to have their respective phone service. Textecution, Kairos Mobile, They all get some positive reviews. I'm sure there's some great features of those apps. But CellControl is one in particular that I have some experience with. I'll have a video that pops up here in just a second. But we have a couple clients of ours that have used those in recent years. One of them, I work for a driver's vehicles on the road, approximately 150. Okay, and they had a significant amount of vehicle accidents year after year. And they implemented CellControl last year. Vehicular accidents went down from about 26, an average about 26 vehicular accidents, down to 4 last year. Nothing else was done. That was the only thing they implemented. And they saw a significant reduction. This basically shows you right here about 150 vehicles, about a 79% reduction in auto collisions in its first year of usage. So no other changes to the company policy. What they did is they had a strict sign-off of their policy. The drivers signed off, acknowledged they would not use cell phones, both company or personal phones. The personal phone numbers were required to be provided. Basically, driving is a privilege. And they stated, if you're going to drive our vehicles, you have to provide us with your personal cell phone number so that it can be put into the CellControl mechanism. So your personal phones are also blocked out while you're driving. And what this is, it's a device that kind of goes into your vehicle. You'll see it on the next video that we have here, but it's solar powered, and that little device with an app included on your phone blocks out your ability to use your phone. The interesting part here is the drivers, after the first year was done, the drivers acknowledged that they decided just not to fight it any longer and to put the phone away. They changed their driving behaviors. This was effective. It changed their drivers' behaviors, and they stated that they also drive safer in their own personal vehicle now. They're not as gravitated to their phone as they were in the past, because the majority of their day, while they're working behind the wheel, navigating their vehicles for work, they're unable to use the phones. So it really helped them and make them safer drivers outside of employment as well as inside.
There's nothing better than knowing your child is safe and sound, especially in today's digital age, where mobile technology rules our lives and the lives of our teens. The average teen sends or receives more than 3,200 text messages in a month. And what's more alarming, 20% of teens admit they have extended conversations over text messages while driving. Behind the wheel, our teens pay more attention to incoming texts than oncoming traffic. What if there was a solution to distracted driving? Meet your new co-pilot, Drive ID, powered by CellControl. Drive ID prevents your teen or employee from using their cellular device from behind the wheel, eliminating the temptation to text, email, play games, or use social media while driving. Equipping your vehicle with Drive ID is quick and easy. First, activate your account by visiting cellcontrol.com. Just click the Activate button and follow the on-screen instructions. Next, fasten the Drive ID device securely to the windshield of your vehicle, behind the rearview mirror. Then, simply download the Drive Protect app on your teen's cell phone to allow the device to connect with the cell while in the car. Now, you're ready to customize your device's mobile policy by accessing your CellControl Management Console on the website. It allows you to select which apps or tasks are permitted while driving and which are restricted. The next time your teen drives, you can rest easy, as Drive ID enforces your mobile policy. The Drive ID device is equipped with a solar panel, so that the unit is always powered to ensure safety at all times. And for complete hands-off, hassle-free use, the device connects to your teen's cell using a non-pairing Bluetooth connection. Drive ID is motion activated, which allows the sensor to determine when the car is moving, placing your teen's phone into safe mode. Drive ID is also able to tell where the cell phone is located within the vehicle, placing the phone into safe mode only when it's in the driver's zone, so the passenger can always access the cell phone without a problem. By adding your number to the safe list, you can be sure you will always be able to reach your teen, even when their phone is in safe mode. Once your teen arrives at their destination, Drive ID can send you a report letting you know you can breathe easy. They're safe. This report also scores their driving based on safety factors, like excessive speed, hard braking, and rapid acceleration. Now, you'll never have to worry about their driving again, as long as your vehicle is equipped with Drive ID. Powered by CellControl.
Okay, so I don't want this again to seem like I'm promoting CellControl in any way over the other apps, and this isn't an infomercial for CellControl, but again, it's a piece of technology that's available out there that we have had some experience with and seen some real positive results. You've seen how customizable CellControl could be. We're at the end of it. The dad actually permitted his daughter to receive phone calls while in transit from him only. We don't recommend that, but that is a feature that's capable, because there are a lot of states now that still do not require hands-free technology. So that isn't a federal law. It's a state law. It's only required right now, I believe, 13 different states. So that's why that option is available, but it's not something that we would recommend, and you'd have to look at, it might not even be legal in some of your states unless they're on a hands-free device. And again, we've talked about how hands-free has really been found not to be much safer, if any safer at all, over a handheld device. So what should employees consider? As far as their training and their policy reinforcement, this is one of those programs. We need consistent communication of our policy through our both initial training as well as refresher training, just like any of our safety policies. We have initial training, and then we have consistent refresher training requirements and policy and oversight and enforcement. We reinforce the policy through consistent reinforcement, and how do we do that? Using videos and guest speakers. That's why I shared with you today some of the short videos. There's tons of those videos available. They're great to remind drivers and avoid some of those complacent driving behaviors just by showing what could happen. Showing some of the dramatic outcomes of cell phone usage. A lot of these videos are developed as public service announcements. They were developed largely to get the information out there about what could happen. So that's the purpose of those videos, and you can use those for your employees as well. Some of these are highly graphic, as I've stated, as I've showed you, as we'll watch here in a bit, as I showed the last video here. They're aimed to scare straight those who use cell phones while in transit. There is a debate whether or not they're effective in changing behavior or more fear-mongering, but as I said, we do find them effective ourselves, at least starting the debate and having those, creating a dialogue. So upon, we're just about ready to wrap up here. Upon completion, I'm going to show a PSA that's easily obtainable through YouTube. Due to its graphic nature, we're going to show it immediately following the Q&A part of this webinar. And I just want to make sure we give the warning that it, prior right now to showing that. So those of you who choose not to watch it, you can exit prior to. There's nothing wrong with that, and fully understandable. Just to summarize our webinar in just a bit here, I will conclude the recording, and I'll open up a Q&A session. I'll probably unmute everybody and give you all a chance to talk, and there's only a few of us here in the room, so we can do that. But cell phones, the use, as we said, has increased the risk of accidents significantly. We looked at some statistics today and it showed how cell phone use has increased accidents and how dangerous it can be. We showed that hands-free devices remain a cognitive distraction, or not much of improvement, if any, over handheld devices. And it's that cognitive distraction that many of us fail to recognize. The brain has challenges multitasking, highly cognitive operations, including driving and comprehension, communication. So what can we do? We need to put the phone down. Okay, it's not worth it. Some of those disastrous outcomes that we've showcased here, the accident statistics that are out there are pretty alarming. So we need to get the phones out of our hands while we're in transit here. Employers should develop policy and train workers. Consider using technology as a means of getting the phones out of our hands, and that's where I showcase some of the apps that are available. So at this point, I want to thank you all for attending our webinar here today. I'm going to stop the recording here in just a second, and I'll give you all a chance to, I'll unmute everybody and we can have a Q&A. You can feel free to shoot me any questions or that you may have through chat or the question box on here. This has been a NERCA educational seminar on distracted driving, cell phone usage. And I really want to thank you guys all for spending a little bit of time here with me today. Again, my name is Pete Shackford with Hetrick Sear & Associates. Look forward to seeing you at future NERCA educational series webinars. Thank you and have a great day.